Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the 7 core principles of software testing. Now, this isn't just for developers, This is the secret playbook that explains why our digital world works and, more importantly, why it sometimes breaks. So let's just start with a question that I know you've yelled at your computer screen before. Why does brand new, expensive software still have bugs? It's got to be one of the most frustrating things about modern life, right?
Well, the answer isn't that the people who build this stuff are just careless. It's actually because the professionals, they follow a playbook, a set of really foundational rules for dealing with the insane complexity of software. And today, we're going to crack that playbook open.
Okay, so first things first, we have to bust some major myths about testing. Let's dig into what testing can't do, because that's going to help us really understand what its job actually is. I'm sure you've seen this a million times in marketing. A company launches some big new app and proudly says something like, "Our extensive testing proves this software is bug-free." I mean, it sounds amazing, it makes you feel safe, but here's the thing, it's just not true. And that brings us right to our very first principle. Testing shows the presence of defects, not their absence. Think about it like this. It's like using a metal detector on a huge beach. It can definitely beep and prove that there's treasure under the sand, right? But just because it's quiet for a few minutes doesn't prove the entire beach is empty. Testing can find bugs, but it can never ever prove that a product is 100% bug-free. So, okay, if we can't prove it's perfect, the next thought is pretty logical, right? Well, to make it perfect, we just need to test every single possible thing. Check every button, every input, every scenario. Surely that would work.
Well, that idea leads us straight into principle number 2. Exhaustive testing is completely impossible. I mean, even for something as simple as a login box, the number of possible things someone could type in, different languages, symbols, super long passwords, it's practically infinite. Trying to test everything isn't just a waste of time, it's literally impossible. And that's why testers have to be smart and use strategy to focus their energy where it matters most.
All right, one last myth to bust in this section. Picture this. A team finishes all their testing and they report back, "Success. We found 0 bugs. The software is ready to go." That sounds like the dream, right? The ultimate goal. But this is a classic trap called the absence of errors fallacy. A piece of software can be technically perfect. The code is beautiful, it never crashes, but if it doesn't actually solve the user's problem or do what they need it to do, it is still a total failure. It's like having a beautiful, perfectly balanced hammer that's just too big to hit a nail. It's useless. Testing has to be about making sure the software is useful, not just that it's technically correct. Okay, so if we can't test everything and finding 0 bugs isn't really the point, then what do the pros actually do? How do they succeed? Well, they learn to test smarter, not just harder. And this idea is at the heart of Principle 4, early testing. Just look at this timeline. The cost of a single bug explodes over time. A little flaw you find back in the design phase, that's a simple, cheap fix. But take that exact same flaw and let a customer find it after the launch, well, now it can cost thousands or even millions of times more to fix when you factor in engineering time, customer support, and, damage to your brand. The lesson couldn't be simpler. Find problems early. So how do you find them early? Simple. You gotta think like a detective. Come on, when you lose your keys, you don't start by searching every single square inch of your entire city, right? No, you check the most likely places first. Your pockets, the car, that little bowl by the front door. Testers do the exact same thing with software. And you know what? Their detective work is often guided by this really common pattern, a pattern that pretty much comes down to a single number, 80%. You might have heard of it as the Pareto principle. In the world of software, this leads us to Principle 5, which is called defect clustering. It basically means that the vast majority of bugs, we're talking like 80% of them, are all hiding out in a tiny little part of the software, usually around 20% of the modules. And once you know that, it's an absolute game changer because it lets smart testers focus their most intense effort on those high-risk areas. Okay, so you found those buggy hotspots and you're running all your tests. Great. But let me ask you this. What happens if you just keep running those same tests over and over and over again for every new version? What happens is you fall right into a trap called the pesticide paradox. This is Principle 6. It's just like how bugs in a field eventually develop resistance to the same pesticide if you use it over and over. Your test suite will literally stop finding new bugs if it never changes. The tests just get stale and predictable. As the software grows and changes, your tests have to evolve with it if you want to keep finding new and interesting problems. So we've covered 6 key principles that really guide the strategy of testing. But there's one final overarching rule that governs everything else. You could call it the golden rule of testing, the one principle to rule them all. And that golden rule is this: testing is context dependent. There is absolutely no one-size-fits-all solution. Think about it. You would never test a simple little mobile game with the same level of intensity as the flight control software on a jumbo jet. The risks are totally different, the user's expectations are different, the technology itself is different. All of that dictates your entire strategy.
And there you have it. Those are the 7 principles that transform testing from just, blindly searching for problems into an intelligent, efficient process. So let's do a super quick recap to tie it all together.
When you put them all together, these principles create a whole mindset. You start by admitting that perfection is just impossible, which forces you to be smart and strategic. Then you test early and you focus on those defect clusters to be efficient. You keep your tests fresh so they stay effective, and you never ever forget that a product is only a success if it actually helps the user. And of course, all of this is wrapped in that golden rule. Your strategy has to fit the context of what you're building. So now you know the core rules that professionals use to build the software you depend on every single day. And as you can see, they're not just a bunch of technical guidelines. They're really a way of thinking about quality and risk. So the only question left is, now that the playbook is yours, what's the first principle you're going to apply?
If you want to learn more about AI, do check other videos of this channel. Please subscribe so that I can continue making more such videos for you.